Three Boston visitors to the Louisiana swamps stop for some authentic Cajun food. They find out that Louisiana holds many more secrets than just gumbo and crawfish. The three businessmen drove quietly through the foggy night on the I-10 bridge over the Atchafalaya Basin. On either side of the SUV, the placid green swamp extended to the horizon. Cypress trees bearded with Spanish moss hosted little tufts of muddy, grassy swampland, and the murky water hid frogs, turtles, carps, and alligators. "I want some Cajun food," whimpered Houston. "Come on, guys, it's our last day in Louisiana. So far, all we've had is clients taking us to upscale restaurants, Italian, Japanese, French. I want some real down-home Cajun food. It's our last chance." Jimmy and Michael looked at each other with raised eyebrows and frowns. Houston's complaining throughout the entire week-long business trip from Boston had shown them an irritating side of him that they had never seen in their advertising firm's offices. Still, he was technically their boss, so they had to just grin and take it. Neither Jimmy nor Michael wanted to do anything the rest of this night but get to New Orleans, fall asleep in their hotel, and wake up early tomorrow morning for the flight back home. Jimmy decided to test out a reply. "Houston, man, remember, this is just a business trip. It's late and we're exhausted. We'll come down here again for fun and eat all the crawfish, gumbo, and jambalaya you want." "No!" Houston protested. His nasally Boston accent had never seemed so annoying, even to the other two Boston natives. "I want Cajun food tonight." Michael groaned but said nothing. They traveled another few minutes in silence before reaching the end of the Atchafalaya Bridge, the ramp gently sloping down to the Louisiana flatland as the night rambled on. The late fog from the swamp continued and enveloped the highway in a pall. "There!" squealed Houston. "A Cajun restaurant! Pull off!" The sign before the next rural exit indeed read, "Cajun Restaurant," and simply that. "Come on, man, aren't you tired?" Michael argued. "About an hour to New Orleans. We can get something to eat at the hotel." "No!" Houston roared, an anger and determination that neither of the other two could have imagined would have ever been inside him. "Jesus," muttered Jimmy. "Fine, but we have to eat fast and it's late. They might even be closed." He and Michael secretly hoped the restaurant was closed, but he eased off the accelerator and let the car slow and pull onto the exit ramp. As soon as they merged onto the rural road the exit led to, Jimmy and Michael regretted it. No streetlights illuminated the thin, black strip of tar that pretended to be a highway, and the line markings looked like they had been painted on 100 years ago, barely still visible. Jimmy clicked the headlights onto high beam, which only served to show a bit more of the thick trees and sloppy mud lining the road. Above them, the weak quarter moon shyly hid behind the white-gray clouds that also blotted out the stars, so that the whole scene felt like they were inside their childhood closets at night, desperately hoping no monsters would reach out with hairy arms and grab them. "I don't know about this," Jim said, as he strained to ensure the car stayed on the road. "It's the middle of nowhere. There's no town. I don't even think there's a restaurant." Jim and Michael detected a moment of hesitation with Houston. There was no arguing but that they were in the dark, Cajun, swampy countryside with no civilization in sight. Maybe it would be enough to scare the obsession out of Houston and allow them to just get back on the interstate, finish the distance to New Orleans, and sleep. "I don't know," Houston said. Yeah, it's pretty dark out here. Damn it, maybe the restaurant went out of business." Jim eyed Michael, and the two slyly smiled at each other. Sweet rest was on the horizon. Then, a neon light shone in the distance. Jim's smile and heart fell. "There!" Houston practically shouted, causing the other two men to wince. "I knew it! That's gotta be the restaurant!" "Shoot," Jim muttered quietly. "Yeah, look! It says it's a Cajun restaurant!" whined the victorious Houston. "Go there! Yeah! Pull off at the restaurant!" "Fine," Jim cursed. He heard Michael sigh. Well, both men figured, if it took one Cajun meal to get them rested and home, so be it. They could not argue against their boss, and maybe, just maybe, the food would be really good. Jim pulled into the parking lot. It was empty except for them. but a flashing neon sign displayed the message, "Open 24 hours every day." His heart sank. "Looks empty," he offered, trying one last time to dissuade Houston. "Oh, no way," his boss said. "It's always open. Let's go." Houston hopped out of the SUV like an excited child. Jim and Michael sighed and followed him into the restaurant. Jim actually perked up when he saw the interior. Decorated like a quaint swamp shack that a fisherman might live in, the dining room was built of cozy cypress wood with stuffed alligators, fish, and turtles on the walls. In the very middle was a full metal fishing boat, displayed proudly to indicate the source of their food. The restaurant looked empty, but then a young woman walked in from the back. All three men were mute at her beauty. Her long, straight, raven hair framed a soft face with the slightest hint of almond eyes, a graceful curved nose, and skin the color of mocha. Boasting the beauty of Louisiana's hybrid vigor from all of the different cultural and racial influences, she was an exotic goddess to the three hardened Bostonians. "Welcome," she said with a voice that dripped with sweet honey. "You look hungry. Come in. We'll make a delicious dinner for you." They followed her silently to a table, the three of them enchanted with her alluring grace. She seemed to almost float as she walked. They sat, and without a word, she returned with 3 cold, foamy mugs of beer. Even though it was late and they were driving, none of them refused. At first taste, they were overwhelmed with the crisp, hoppy, invigorating flavor. "Wow, that's good," Houston said, breaking the silence. "It really is," Jim agreed. "We make it here in-house," the waitress said. "Now relax, gentlemen, and I'll bring you the most delicious meal you've ever had." Bewitched by her beauty, the 3 colleagues sat quietly and drank their beer. They drank and drank until their hearts were drenched in calm, ecstatic joy and confidence. And the more they drank, their beer mugs remained icy and full. The young lady reappeared, this time followed by several other women, each more stunning than the last. The 3 men from Boston, a cosmopolitan city full of beautiful women, had never seen any woman close to the perfection of these Cajun queens. They were works of divine art. Every angle, every smooth piece of skin, every deep brown eye, reflections of the mysteries of the universe and the bliss of life. The women carried out tray after tray of rich, dark gumbo, colorful jambalaya, spicy boiled crawfish, dozens of crisp, plump raw oysters, fillets of catfish fried to golden perfection, saucy shrimp stew, and a dozen other delicacies that the men did not even recognize. The table, full of colors, aromas, and textures, made all 3 of their stomachs involuntarily growl and roil. "Eat, gentlemen," one of the women said. "Eat to your stomach's and heart's content, and then eat more. May your beer never empty, and your plate never be bare. Mangez, bon appétit." They ate. They feasted. They banqueted. They engorged their endless stomachs with the rich, spicy, savory flavors of Cajun cuisine. And with each bite, they entered an ecstasy, a pleasure beyond their comprehension. They ate for what seemed like hours and hours, yet never were their beer mugs not constantly full, nor were the plates of food ever empty. The young women simply watched them eat. And once enough time had passed, 2 of the women sat on each side of Houston. They stroked his hair, then kissed him. Soon, the other women were kissing Jim and Michael, and their glazed eyes were those of the Olympic gods in an ambrosic feast. Then, the women stopped. They looked at one another with wicked smiles, knowing smiles, smiles of deception. One by one, each of the women opened their mouths to show 2 long, sharp canine teeth. As the 3 men watched without comprehension, the women's faces turned pale, and the charm illusion broke. "Oh my God, look!" yelled Houston. Jim and Michael followed his gaze to the table. No longer the delicious feast for the eyes and mouth, they saw the real scenario. Gray and black rotting food sat festering, piled onto the plates and covered in flies with white maggots wiggling and squirming throughout. The beer wasn't beer, but a decaying, mold-covered black sludge. "Oh, God!" Jim said. Michael vomited. "Now you see the truth," one of the vampiresses said. "You've had your feast, and now we shall have ours." They crawled on the table too quickly for what was natural, and plunged their fangs into the three men's necks. Out on the interstate, a car of tourists drove in the night. Hungry, the family saw the sign for a Cajun restaurant and pulled off.